Well, they had a dream. So this is what he wanted to do. I mean, you know, how many people can say that they have a dream and they want to do it, and they do it. So this is what he did.
This is the story of one man's dream and what he was prepared to do to make his improbable vision come to life.
Like, what crazy man would build a pyramid in the countryside of Illinois?
And how his passion and enthusiasm for Egyptian history and culture have transformed an entire community.
If he puts his mind to something, he's going to do it. No one's going to stop him.
Dubbed the world capital of architecture, Chicago occupies a strategic position at the southern end of Lake Michigan, where the heart of the country and the Great Lakes meet.
There's obviously a lot to do there, a lot of sporting events, a lot of outdoor events, museums, art museums, I mean, everything you want in a city. Chicago's a great food town as well as a great blues town.
Less than 70 kilometers or 45 miles north of the third most populous city in the U.S., the small town of Gurnee, a suburb of Wadsworth in the Lake County district, is full of surprises.
Lake County is really blessed with beautiful lakes and forest preserves and water recreation sports and lots of wonderful gardens and a lot of outdoor activities to take part in the summer. Tourism has really been on the upswing the last couple of years. Again, we're very fortunate here in Gurnee to have a Six Flags Great America that attracts millions a year.
But in this perfect example of American suburbia, an architectural oddity seems hopelessly out of place.
You could be driving down the highway, and if you look over, if you're coming from the north and look to your left, you will see this huge structure along with the 55-foot statue. So, I mean, who isn't struck by that? And you just want to get off the road and go and see that closer up.
I think the pyramid's very cool. I've grown up in this area, and I've driven by there my whole life. And obviously, it's something that, you know, is not a regular neighborhood house. So everyone always looks at it. You always see people stopping, looking through the gate.
The Golden Pyramid is a 6-story building erected on a concrete island surrounded by a moat and guarded by impressive sculptures. At the entrance of the 4-hectare or 10-acre property, a 200-ton statue of Ramses II hints at the magic of the place. Under a pile of gravel rests an exact replica of the tomb of Tutankhamun. The walls are adorned with hieroglyphics, reproductions of Egyptian paintings, and ancient frescoes. The tomb is loaded with hundreds of sculptures and artifacts recalling the Egypt of the pharaohs. The Golden Pyramid is an exact replica of the Great Pyramid of Giza, at 1/9 the scale. But what is most amazing about this story is that this monumental creation is essentially the result of the labors of one man, Jim Onan.
Growing up, he always told me when he started his business, he only had one shovel and a wheelbarrow. And that's how he started his business.
We didn't come from money. We didn't even know when I was going to get the money to buy milk for the kids. You know, but when he started his own business and the garages took off, he really could sell the garages. Everybody loved to have an Onan-built garage.
You know, everybody knows that we were called the Onan brothers. There was 3 of us, Jerry, myself, and Jim.
He started pouring concrete, and even today people say 30 years later that his concrete is the strongest uncracked concrete they've ever had. Now, my dad's philosophy was if it wasn't good enough to go in his backyard, it's not good enough to go in yours.
Already passionate about all things Egyptian, one day Jim came across a university study suggesting that the pyramids at Giza generate energy.
Back in the 70s, when this pyramid power craze became popular, he started studying what pyramids could actually do. So to do this, he started building little tiny pyramids and placed them in our house.
And we had one pyramid that was facing true north. And for some reason, if you put your hand over that pyramid, you felt a sensation. And people were just amazed at that. Every time someone would come over, he'd have them put their hand over that one pyramid. Then he went to a larger pyramid, which was built in the backyard.
All of a sudden, a 13-foot pyramid ended up in our backyard at our old house to do larger experiments. My brother was a botanist, and he was studying at college of Lake County. They suggested for us to have hydroponics here, see how the plants would grow. So that's what we did. They were amazed to find out that our plants were growing 3 times faster than theirs. They could not explain. So one day, I guess my mother was talking to him. They were trying to figure out where they're going to build their new house and what the house is going to look like. And my mother said to him, "Why don't you build our new house in the shape of a pyramid? Maybe then you get those darn pyramids off our dining room table."
Kind of just let it go. I didn't pay much attention. I just let him do his own thing because I was busy at the time raising 5 children. So I just finally said, look, I finally just said, I don't care, build whatever you want.
And my dad's one of those kind of people that says, you know, that'll be fun. Let's do it.
And so he did. He built his pyramid.
Jim Onan is the very definition of a self-taught man.
My dad was one of those kind of people that he always liked to try to figure things out. So he'd always build things, tinker with stuff. I mean, he learned how to pour concrete, he learned how to do bricking. There's any trade that was out there, he tried to learn it.
But how does an autodidact who makes his living building garages come to build a massive pyramid in rural Illinois?
I know he went to the library a lot and he got books on the pyramids, how the real pyramids were built. Other than that, he's the one that mainly built it.
Having amassed a small fortune building garages, Jim buys a plot of 4.5 hectares or 10 acres near Wadsworth. It was here in 1979 that he began to build the pyramid that would double as a home for his wife and children.
I remember when my dad first bought this property. We had a little mud pit pond in the back, and that's where I learned how to swim. And actually, I never knew that I was going to live in a pyramid someday. I thought it was just going to be a house. And then her first floor went on, and it started looking just like a hut. I would come there, go swimming, and the next floor was on. I remember people asking if we're building a Buddhist temple. But then it started taking its shape.
Once the complex structure takes shape, the walls rise smoothly, but they have to drop the idea of building an indoor pool.
The main room on the ground floor was supposed to be a swimming pool. And we never poured any of the concrete in here. It was all mud. So as soon as the house took its shape, water started bubbling up in the center of the house.
The water gradually flooding the property's ground floor comes from a natural source beneath the pyramid.
We said, forget about the swimming pool. We capped the spring, then we moved it over to the mechanical room, and we start using that water as geothermal. So that's how we heat the house, heat and cool the house. Water is 55 degrees coming out of the spring, runs through the house in pipes, and we just blow air past it. But we started realizing after the water started going through the house, it had to empty somewhere. So next thing we realized, by pouring it outside, our pond started getting bigger. My dad always originally wanted a pond on the property, but it was supposed to be all the way in the back corner, behind the house. Now, you know, as soon as we built the house, that's when the water started bubbling out
that's when we had to hire someone to come out and start digging us this bigger pond. We never planned on having a moat around the house.
This was enough for some to say that the pyramid was already exercising its powers. But not everyone was happy with the impromptu design changes.
I remember stories of my dad being here with the inspectors, and the inspectors would tell him, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. And my dad's answer to them is, when's the last time you built a pyramid? That would irritate him, and they'd walk off.
On a pyramid, you know, you take a square and divide it in half, and divide that in half, and that would be times whatever pitch. So there was no problem in figuring that out. One of the things I think Jim did do, I think he added a couple floors after I approved the permit, because I don't recall approving 5 stories. So, but that would have been Jim Onan, all right? And Jim always did things first and asked later.
Jim Onan is a perfectionist, and so his replica of the Great Pyramid of Giza, although reduced to 1/9 of its original size, must be strictly accurate.
When we started building it, there are certain things that he wanted perfect. The Great Pyramid's facing true north. So my dad wanted this house with every angle true directional. So at one point when they were ready to form, when they're pouring the forms for the center wall, it wasn't true north. So they had to redig it and move it to make sure that this was. That's how precise he wanted it.
The building gradually takes the form of a perfect pyramid, but to Jim's eyes, it lacks luster. His solution is to cover it with nothing less than 24-karat gold. 8,000 plates of precious metal are needed to cover the entire area of nearly 4,000 square meters, or 43,000 square feet. Total cost $1 million. Jim's pyramid is the tallest gold structure in North America. But Jim's grand ideas don't end there. After a trip to Egypt with his family, he decides to add a finishing touch to his creation.
As soon as we got back from Egypt, my dad wanted to build a statue. It's kind of funny because my dad actually called the county asking him if he needed a permit for a statue. I'm assuming that they thought it was going to be a small statue because they said you don't need a permit. Of course, with my dad, he builds a 55-foot, 200-ton statue of Ramses II.
That statue, that was a problem. It was too high. So we made him fill it in the bottom. So the bottom of the statue is all filled with dirt. So it met the right height.
We wound up piling a bunch of gravel around the feet and all the way up to the guy's knees in order to help meet the height requirement. So you just build the ground up around what you had, and there's more than one ways to skin a cat.
Now, when the house was all gold, you would not believe the traffic that we brought down this road. Everyone had to stop and take pictures of this.
Everybody was wondering what it was. They really couldn't figure out what it was, you know. And then I remember when it actually turned gold and everybody saw it. I'm like, my God, what is this thing, you know?
We do get a lot of people stopping in front of the house. Sometimes we cannot get into our gate. At nighttime, you will see lights flashing on the house. People are trying to see what it's like.
While the public is intrigued, journalists take a different approach.
All the newspapers, they were picking on my father. They're like, what crazy man would build a pyramid in the countryside of Illinois?
I mean, they called him the crazy man for building the pyramid.
In 1982, we moved into the house, and at that point, it was only supposed to be a house. But there was a charity that my dad used to always help out in Waukegan, approached him, asking him if he would be willing to open the house up for them next summer. Of course, he tried to talk him out of it, because every time he was written in the paper, they would call him a crazy nutty man. He figured who wanted to come see him. So eventually, he said fine.
Jim not only agrees to open his house to the special event, but to the general public as well. The family immediately enter decorator mode, and in a few short months, the space is filled with ornaments of all kind. No details are overlooked. When opening day finally arrives, the family is nervous, and for good reason.
And I remember waking up that one morning. It was like 2 hours before the gates were even open and people started lining up. All the newspaper people that was picking on my dad were first in line. We saw so many people that we actually were calling our cousins to come out to try to help us. And we had over 11,000 people show up. We had people from Australia, Ireland, Belgium, Germany, all over the world.
So things kind of went from there. People were interested in it, and then before you know it, we were doing bus groups, bus tours. No, the intent was never to open it up. The intent was to be a home.
But the success of their grand opening doesn't make everyone happy.
That was issued as a single-family dwelling. The style was whatever you wanted to call it, you know. We did not issue a permit for a museum, right? I even think out on the tollway they had signs, you know, saying where he was at. But that was Jim. I mean, he's a go-getter.
If he puts his mind to something, he's going to do it. No one's going to stop him.
A lengthy legal battle ensues in which Jim must fight to obtain permits and comply with zoning regulations if he wants to legally open his home to the public. When everything is finally in order, he opens a gift shop. This marks the beginning of the golden age of the pyramid. But the family's excitement is cut short when the pyramid starts to cause problems.
Because this is the first pyramid home ever built, there's not a lot of products back in those days. My dad installed insulation in the walls and then put thermoply over them. And then we taped every seam. What the problem was is that the walls got so sweaty is that it would pool water on the first floor. So that's when we had to drill in all these holes, put vents, and we had to install a huge fan at the tip to draw the heat out.
But then it's the gold plates' turn to cause problems.
Now, it was so shiny, we got a call from the county, and they said he was bothering our neighbors. Kind of funny, because at that time we only had 2 neighbors, and they never complained when they came over here. Then they said it was causing accidents on the highways. We could see the highways. We didn't see any accidents. The last thing they came up with, it was bothering the planes.
This cascade of phony complaints finally makes Jim mad. He refuses to take down the pyramid or the gold plating and instead decides to cover the whole thing in a giant dome.
It was 70 feet high. Now, every time when someone would drive by, they would see a big white bubble outside. Couldn't see the pyramid anymore.
The Onan family closed the pyramid to the public, except for organized tours or events relating to Egyptian culture. But before long, Mother Nature causes problems. In 1997, a violent tornado strikes the region.
At the time the tornado happened, we were upstairs in bed. Then all of a sudden, we heard sprinkling on the window, like rain on the window. And so Jim got up and he says, "This doesn't sound right." And the big steel beams, as you crossed the bridge, went right through the house.
He looked at my mom and said, "Let's go." It was almost to the first floor, and he realized my mother was not behind him. He was worried because, through this whole time, you kept on hearing more of the beams, sliding or hitting the house. He ran back up the stairs. There's my mother with a suitcase packing clothes. He said, no, we have to get out of here.
The tornado has caused significant structural damage, forcing the pyramid to close its doors to the public. But Jim and his son get back to work.
The dome was up to hide the gold, but it was also to preserve it so we never had to repair it. Every year my dad had to go back up to recaulk it. So we were actually in the process of trying to figure out if we were going to take the gold off before the dome fell, if we were going to take the gold off and replace it with something else. So I spent the next 2 years taking off all that gold, and it was extremely hard because all I had was a scaffold going around, one little 2x4 leaning up against the building.
The gold plates are replaced by a gold paint. Patiently working to repair the damage, Jim and his son overcome trial after trial until the family can finally resettle in their home. In 1833, just before it acquired official municipal status, Chicago had just 300 residents. But its strategic position on the trail to the west attracted traders and manufacturers from New England who helped make Chicago the fastest growing city in the United States. It was these early settlers looking for quiet life and fertile soil who came to colonize the region known as Gurnee.
I think they were looking for a convenient place between Chicago and Milwaukee, and then Chicago is so close that it became a convenient village, and the railways came out here, and eventually Gurnee was settled and then founded and became a community.
Who in the 1970s could have imagined that Jim Onan would one day settle in this part of the country to build, of all things, a giant golden pyramid?
When we first moved here, there was very few houses. There might have been a house next door to us. We didn't have all the big homes down the street from us, so there wasn't that many people, and all of them, we went to them and told them what we were doing, and they had no problem with it.
In the mid-'80s, when the pyramid first opened its doors to the public, tourism in Gurnee was slow to develop. But things changed overnight when an amusement park was built near the city, bringing in 25,000 new visitors each year. But this hasn't stopped citizens and businesses in the city from remaining loyal to their traditions.
The shanty is a very historic area for the region. It was built over 100 years ago, and recently we renovated the property using 27 local barns. So everything that you see is coming from a barn rehabbed within a 10-mile radius. So there's a lot of very local influence.
Those are really good. Those are wedges and a garlic butter sauce that we've homemade. They're really good.
That all the young kids work there as bus kids, and that they kind of grow up around these businesses, so it's a very town-oriented place, The town's very loyal to us.
The Onan family pyramid does its part to increase tourism in Gurnee.
I think why it's such a great partnership is that the idea that people are traveling from very far distances to see the pyramid and then experience a tour, and then you can come experience the shanty or Captain Porky's and have something to eat. It's kind of just you make a day out of it.
In recent years, the Golden Pyramid has attracted an annual average of 20,000 curious visitors.
I don't think people were curious because of the gold. Probably the shape. Someone had built a house in the shape of a pyramid. They really wanted to know what the inside was like. They would come up and say, well, do the people live here have pointed heads? Do they sleep on straw?
I think people are just fascinated with pyramids. I think there's something mysterious about pyramids. I think people have heard the rumors that the whole site is spiritual in some way, that has some power. So I think they're drawn to that.
One of these mysterious stories comes from a construction worker hired at the beginning of the project to help build the moat.
His name was Ralph. And this guy, every day he worked here, for lunch would drink the water from that spring. A few months later, he came to my father claiming that his doctor said he was cured of his high blood pressure. My dad said this is impossible. Ralph, of course, wasn't happy with this. So every day after work, he'd leave here and meet up with some of his friends and start telling stories. This rumor got so out of control that when we finally heard it back, it went like this. Ralph died out here on this property. My dad saw him, ran out to him, and sprinkled this water on him, and he miraculously came back to life. Now, it got so big, it even hit the newspapers. So people started contacting him, demanding this water. They didn't think it was right we were hoarding it. So my dad said, this would be fun. Let's give the people the water. Let's see what happens. Within a few weeks, they would contact us back claiming that they either felt better or was cured of something. Now my dad started wondering if we actually had the Fountain of Youth. So I'm gonna say it's mind over matter.
After the disastrous tornado in 1997, the pyramid was closed to the general public and the Onan family found some measure of privacy. But the public's interest in this incredible project never faltered.
I don't believe that it was supposed to be a fascination for people to come see it. I think he just had a fascination with building it and enjoyed the pyramid, the whole theme of it. So when he did that, I think that there were so many people that wanted to see what it was. I know there was airplanes flying over the pyramid, taking pictures. They were doing tours of it. I know Muhammad Ali wanted to try to buy for a training facility. I know Michael Jackson was trying to do a music video there. So there was like a lot of really crazy stuff going on. And I think that it wasn't his purpose to draw attention.
In 2011, when the Onan family decided to reopen the doors of their home to the public, tragedy struck once again.
Jim had a slight stroke about 3 or 4 years ago, and then he started to forget things. And then he was going to Mayo Clinic. He'd go like every 6 months because he had melanoma. And when he went up there for a checkup, and they said that he was starting with dementia. Well, I never thought that would happen. It's sad. But Rocko and I will make a go. We've taken over, and we're gonna work it and hope it takes off. We'd like to do a lot of things.
I do give lectures here. I usually stand right here. I have groups from anywhere from 6 to 90 people that I talk to.
We're really glad that it's being reopened, and all these people that it's kind of remained a mystery for so long because there's a gift shop out in front, and people, especially the last 10 years, people didn't know why that was, why it was there, what its story was. So it's really, I think it's going to be really nice for Rocko to kind of be able to tell his story, because it's a great story to tell.
So what does the interior of so unusual a structure look like? The question is all the more intriguing given that an entire family lives there.
So this is our ground floor. This was supposed to be the swimming pool, which obviously is not. This is the main wall. This is the first wall that was ever poured in the house. It's all concrete. A sign painter from Zion, Illinois. He spent 3 years painting all the walls. This wall he copied off of one of the famous chests that were found in Tutankhamun's tomb. It's a war chariot, he's on his war chariot.
Naturally, the ground floor is the largest space. It's used mainly for events and conferences, but it also doubles as a museum that offers Rocko the opportunity to speak about some of the objects closest to his heart.
Now in this case, kind of funny piece. The first time we were in Egypt, there's this guy that ran up to my dad and he was like, I have a real artifact that I want to sell you. Of course, I was a kind of a nerd in Egyptology as a young kid, and I noticed that there was a cartouche on it, but it wasn't complete. As soon as he confronted the guy saying it wasn't a real piece, he told my dad, but it's cursed. Then my dad bought it. So I was afraid that everyone was going to say, but I have a cursed item.
Hard as it is to believe, Jim's interest in all things Egyptian is wider than you'd think.
And here's my dad's latest project. Is beer. In the 90s, they opened the oldest brewery in ancient Egypt. They found a tomb with all these vases with sediment of beer in it. My dad got a sample of one, sent it down to a company in Chicago that designs recipes for other beer companies. They came up with the closest ingredients we have today. Used the water out of this pyramid to come up with Pharaoh's gold. Now my dad calls this the rarest beer on the planet. That's only because we're still hoarding all of it. Still need that one license to start selling it. I have 17,000 bottles of this beer. So I cannot wait to start selling. I believe people are coming here because they don't believe that a man built the pyramid. And you know, sometimes I sit up there at the gate and looking like a gawker out. You know, sometimes I'll take photographs and there'll be like 5 or 6 cars that'll pull by and they'll start asking me questions. I said, I don't know, what is it? I don't know, is it a museum? Is it an embassy? You know, no, barely ever does anyone think it's a home.
Yet it is indeed a house. But to truly appreciate the space where Rocko and his brothers and sisters grew up, you have to go to the upper floors.
You want to come with me to go upstairs to the 2nd floor? So here's our kitchen, where my mother spends about 90% of her time. And our eating room, which that time when myself and my 4 other siblings were here, we used to all eat right here. This is our living room. You have a nice view of the pond. Now this corner room, which we call the game room, we have one of my favorite Egyptian porcelain and gold chess sets. Brings back memories because this is where my dad was a chess player, so he always wanted to play chess with each one of us kids. And none of us kids could beat him, except me. I was the only one. Now the last 2 rooms that we're going to look into, everything in these rooms that looks gold is gold. But 24-karat leaf gold artifacts, statues of Nefertiti and Cleopatra. Now this would be the center of the pyramid. There's people that believe when they would walk past this room, they'd feel this cool sensation running through their body. I always tell everyone that this is my wine goblet when I come over. I'm a light drinker. Here's our 24-karat leaf gold front doors. This was another project of mine. It takes about 4 coats with a Q-tip to get it that black. You gotta remember, I was in 6th grade when I did these doors. When I'd go to school, I'd do this in the morning, I would have little gold flakes all in my hair. And you know how kids are mean, they would always call me Goldilocks and stuff like that. See, look, I had hair. I know, kind of fell off. We're on the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor has 4 bedrooms on it. So we have the master bedroom, my old bedroom. This is my brother Joe and my brother Jim's bedroom. Here's the spiral staircase going to the 5th floor. So in here you have the best view. You can see all 4 directions. This is actually my favorite room in the house. You feel like you're not attached to the rest of the house.
The imposing pyramid is not the sole focus of the site. Jim Onan has built an exact replica of the tomb of Tutankhamun a few meters from his house.
This is our tomb of Tutankhamun, exact replica. Right now you're walking down the corridor into the antechamber. This is the smallest tomb in the Valley of the Kings, and this is the exact same size and measurement of the actual tomb of Tutankhamun. My father didn't build this tomb, but he did find the Manor brothers who built Disneyland, which they built the tomb for us. And he had Dr. Ragab from Egypt actually give him all the dimensions and the copies of how the painting should look in the burial room. We asked Artisan Guild out of California to make us particular pieces that they weren't in production. So we have one-of-a-kind reproductions. Now, if you go to Egypt today, you can only walk up to here because the real 30,000-pound quartzite crypt, the solid gold sarcophagus of Tutankhamun, and the mummy is still in the tomb today. Now, all these paintings on these walls are exact. My dad wanted to build the tomb the way it was in Egypt. I want to give everyone that feeling of actually going in down deep into it. And the treasury, canopic chest. That chest would hold the jars which would hold the organs of the body.
The tomb is also open to the public, and if Jim's wishes come true, the public will one day get even more for their money.
My father really enjoyed having this tomb built. And he really wanted to see other buildings, other temples, and other tombs built on this property. And hopefully, someday, I'll have those buildings built.
This is the Pyramid Gift Shop. We have a lot of items from Egypt. Here we have Egyptian carpeting from Egypt. It's handmade in Egypt. Over here we have an Egyptian chess set. We have party cups.
Since Jim's illness, the mother and son duo work to preserve his legacy. Rocko handles tours, and Linda runs the gift shop.
The vases, those are all from Egypt. Well, we opened up the Pyramid Gift Shop because people were interested in Egyptian items. They were interested in plates, vases, anything from Egypt, the jewelry. Oh, we also have towels. We have the Egyptian towels. I enjoy giving the tours, taking this place over, and I'm learning a lot, which I was never able to do before because I was busy raising children, and he was the big man. He was the boss. I had to do what he says. Now I'm the boss.
And the new caretakers aren't lacking for new projects.
So Rocko approached us about a year ago, and we are turning in the pyramid into a venue for people for private parties and for weddings and for charity events. And I really just think with the 11 acres they have there and all on-site parking and a gated community, which is very safe, we're going to be taking the same food that's been influenced here at the Shanty and Captain Porky's and offering that at the pyramid now. So people will be able to come into the pyramid, tour a site that, you know, is very, very rare to see. To be able to eat inside a pyramid is something I don't think is happening anywhere in the world. So we're really excited about having our partnership with Rocko and his family.
With the support and interest of the public, the Golden Pyramid has a bright future.
For me, when Rocko called me, not only was it really nice to venture off and to do a partnership with the food and cocktail area with the pyramid, but it was also very neat because I got to actually go into this house that I've been looking at for the last 25 years and really never knew what it looked like. So for me, it was kind of like a double happiness. So.
Although it has become a major tourist attraction in the area, the Golden Pyramid of Gurney is first and foremost a family story.
Actually, I used to love riding my bike, and this is a perfect workout. I mean, look at how long of a drive it was.
A unique family united despite hardships and criticisms behind Jim's incredible vision.
I don't think Jim ever thought of money or anything like that. I think Jim would just did what he felt was, you know, what he had passion for. And I think his kids, as they got older, I think, you know, it takes time for you to see that, you know. And I think he was a little bit ahead of everybody's time, you know. So I think it took time for everybody to adjust to him. But, you know, I think now that they're older, I think they appreciate it a lot more, you know.
A family that continues to grow and follow in the most cherished of Linda and Jim's values.
Yeah, what did your teacher say when you handed in your picture of your grandma's house?
Grandma's ink.
They told you that you had to draw a picture of your grandma's house, and you drew a pyramid. And they asked you why you drew a pyramid. And you kept telling them that was your grandma's house, and they said, no, you have to draw the house your grandma lives in.
But my grandma does live in
And that's what you kept telling them.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, that's funny. I get it.
So they're like, no, his grandma does live in a pyramid house.
They didn't believe the poor little guy.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
He's not a good
They
artist.
thought you were imagining it.
On my 11th birthday, I wanted to go to Egypt, but my dad said no way.
What are you doing? You're not 11 yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm about 10 in 2 months. I can do my homework in the 5th floor, which is my favorite floor.
Yeah. You're going to do all that studying up there, huh?
Yes.
You're going to get straight A's and you're going to be...
Well, at least A's and B's.
Well, he definitely get his exercise. So are you.
My two precious boys, oh yes.
I know.
Jim was a hard worker. He worked a lot. And he was lucky to come home and see his children go to bed. Half the time, the children were in bed when he came home, and they were still sleeping when he left for work. He was a hard worker. Things had to be, Jim was a perfectionist. He wanted things done right. So, but, God, like I say, he worked so much. I didn't see him that much myself, so.
Probably had the least time with my father. But now that he's older, I have the most time with him. And remembering back at these short periods that I get to spend with him means a lot.
My grandfather actually built this house. And the story of this is he kept on putting these little pyramids all over his house. And then my grandmother was always tired of it. So then she said, Jim, why don't you just build your house out of a pyramid? And then so he would stop.
Well, they had a dream. So this is what he wanted to do. I mean, you know, how many people can say that they have a dream and they want to do it, and they do it. So this is what he did.